Let's get started. This is day 10 of committing to 5 days of live streaming at 10 p.m. PST. All right. What is that title even about? So if you're new to this show, and I'm structuring this like a talk show, um, I am working on um, I'm practicing something called dialogue. And my goal with the show is to increase the amount of dialogue I'm in with people. What's dialogue? Dialogue is simply the conversation I have with my audience, explaining my platform, what I'm working on, what I can help people with, why I'm even here, right? What my experience is. And when you're just starting out, and this is a sort of important element of when you begin to chip away at the time that you have spent sort of percolating. You haven't been dealing with people. Maybe you've been under being. Maybe you've been a little bit socially out of sorts. Maybe you've disconnected from friends and family. Maybe you moved to a new part of the country, a new part of the world, and you're a little bit by yourself. But one thing I learned is that um, is that a, the essence um, of entrepreneurship is that you put something out into the world to get it back. And what a lot of us are doing is skipping a step. We're going straight to the step of trying to get something out of the world. So we're in this like almost like matrix thinking where we're plotting and planning. We're in the design phase, right? All right. Think about it this way. Um, you get out of the world what you put into it. And so what is useful is to decide what in what way do you want to show your value and put yourself out into the world. If you like writing, it's going to be writing, right? I like talking, and I like talking a lot, and I like to listen to talking, right? Most of what I consume in terms of podcasts is like advice shows, actually. And actually, I got inspired with this idea by looking at I was looking at a show I used to listen to probably for like 3 4 years when I was in high school. It's a show based in LA, and it's called Love Line with Dr. Drew, and the creator of the show's name Poor Man. But I was really blown away by what you can do with just a radio show. You can help so many people. So I thought, what if my idea is a what if my way of my first foray into delivering value to other people isn't one-on-one calls. Maybe it's not outreach, maybe it's not putting ads out, maybe it's not something that I really don't like doing, which is posting on social media. But here I can still be on social media, but in my way. And a big part of your personal brand is what's called consistency. You are consistent. You are consistent. So you have to be internally and externally consistent. So, for example, um, if you don't like social media, um, don't include it in your business. Do something else. Like trade existed for thousands of years, right? Before before the internet came along or before electricity came along, right? People have always been trading. It's a part of just the human condition. So, and a lot of us, and this is something that I want to talk about more. A lot of us didn't have an experience of trading and selling and customer service and learning how to deal with people because we live very, almost sheltered suburban lives, and we didn't start working until like the end of high school and in college, right? But say, for example, another person owns a store, a family owns a store, and the kids all work at the store. Well, you'd have some experience then, right? Most Americans, most of us growing up here, don't uh, don't have that type of experience. Maybe 100, 200 years ago, you had more experience dealing with people, but a lot of us can grow up really sheltered, just watching TV and then going on the internet and then being on our phone all day, and we never learn how to interact with people. We don't learn how to banter. We don't know how to be chatty and tell jokes or take a joke. We take everything personally because we have this almost like uh we our filter settings are too high, where things go right past us and we don't pick up on it, right? So one of the ways to get yourself back into action is to find something that you like doing, um, where you can connect with other people. You can use meetup.com. You can sign up to volunteer. A lot of what I did when I moved from California to Oregon is I did a lot of volunteering. I created meetups. I um, I volunteered at conferences to get into conferences. I schedule a lot of phone calls and just talk to a lot of people. I went out and met people for coffee. Lots of coffee meetings, right? And over time, I got better at talking with people and asking questions and being fascinated with them. Something we learned from Dale Carnegie, um, the book "How to Win Friends and Influence People" is uh, become fascinated with other people, right? Part of becoming fascinated is listening, being better at listening to people, really listening. Like there's second level, third, second level, first level, second level, and third level listening. Level listening is listening to what people are saying under the words. Like if you could visualize it, there's a stream of words. Well, what's under that? What's undercutting that? What is in their heart that they're trying to express that goes beyond, you know, that you pick up, that goes beyond what they're physically saying. All right, because not everybody is good at expressing what is in their heart. But if you pay enough attention to people with their mannerisms and their eyes and their behavior, and when their voice goes up and goes down, and when they look away, looking to the left, looking to the right, looking up, looking down, you can learn to, over time, create conversations with people, right? And now I'm at the point where um, another thing I do is I go on Lunch Club. There's sites called like there's one called Lunch Club where you can just sign up to talk to random people, and every week 2 or 3 people get added to your Google Calendar, and you show up for a meeting and you just talk to people. Very easy, right? But it takes work, and you can, again, when we're dealing with vectors, right? So vector here, when we talked about painting, launching our painting career last night, we talked about launching our painting career. And one of the vectors that we can tweak is value, right? If you think of like a an audio receiver, right, or a mixer, you can tweak different values. right? You can tweak the volume, you can tweak the bass and the treble, you can switch the loudness and the balance, more sound on the left versus the right. You can make all of these tweaks once you get a system going, right? All right. So back to what I was saying about um, what this live stream is about. So this is my version of that. My version of that is put yourself out there in a way that you actually enjoy doing. And I like radio shows, and I like and I like podcasts that are formatted like a radio show. I like call-in shows as well. So what you do is you just do the same thing and then watch what happens. So give me a couple weeks of doing this, and I have all this content that I can now work with. I can recycle now. I can reuse it. I can chop it up with AI tools, and I can start posting it on LinkedIn. So you can see how doing one action can spin up 10, 20 other actions from it. Okay. All right. So last night we looked at a painting career. And you know what? Maybe I should just talk about the lunch club call I had today. I had a call with a guy named Mike Doubler, Matt Doubler, and he's a musician from California. He has a band, but he also does screenwriting. And we got to talking about screenwriting, and I mentioned how I would really like to um, to get some short science fiction screenplays, kind of like the Twilight Zone or Outer Limits style screenplays, because there's a lot of YouTube channels creating little short films, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and so we said, yeah, you should do that. That's exactly what you should do. You should look up those channels and you should find those people and then go talk to them, right? So sometimes something that you want is so close to you, it's almost like a blinders. You can't see it because it's right here. And every time you move, the thing that you want moves, right? So what's helpful is to have somebody on the outside of you who's able to look at you and notice what you can't notice until you get to a point where you can start to notice those things yourself. And that takes time, but it's always good to have somebody outside. That's what this show is actually. So this show is what I want eventually is for to have like a phone number or link, and I want people to call in. I want it to be like a call in show. Here's the problem though. I can't have a call in show from scratch. I have to establish some I have to establish some consistency, i.e., I'm going to be here just like the radio. If you turn on the radio and turn off the radio, it's still playing somewhere else. Somebody else in your area is still playing that radio. That song is going to play no matter what, whether or not you're listening to the radio, right? So, what we're going to do, or what I'm going to do, is I'm just going to work on this commitment of being as consistent as possible um, on this on this platform. Then I can add to it later. Then I can add being on Twitch, or I can add being on some other platform. Right now, I'm on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Right. Okay. So, as with the painting career, an acting career is the same thing. We are looking. We can even copy this over. So, if we want to make a movie, acting is the same exact thing. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to copy and see what we can see. So let's take acting career. And we talked about Sylvester Stallone saying, I'm an actor, right? All right. So we're using version one as leverage in our quest to become an actor, and we're using gear shifting. So we're looking, same thing, motivated sellers, acting, photography, scores, lighting, casting, screenwriting, location scouting. Right? I'm sure there are other disciplines in film. Please don't email me and say, "Oh, here's 10 more disciplines." This is just an example. The important part is the concepts. That's the important part, guys. Okay. All right. And with these concepts, you can build everything. Okay. All right. So it's literally the same thing as somebody who is making a movie because you can go backwards. You can say photography wants to also somebody who wants to work on a movie wants to do the photography for a movie. He's also going to look around at all these groups. He's going to look at watering holes, right? Once he gets some work, he's going to use V1 to reach out and say, "Look at this photography work I've done. Look at this acting work I've done." The way to become an actor is just to go around doing a lot of acting, and we can get crazy with it as well, right? We can invent our own casting calls. We can do what Sylvester Stallone did. We can write a script and use that for leverage and say, "Hey, I'm an actor," right? um, but it's really the same thing. So the possibilities, this is exactly what we've been looking for. That's nice, but we really need help with this other thing, with acting or with photography or with screenwriting, right? We are getting in wherever we can. So we are looking for. Here's another thing to look for, another principle, and this principle comes from Dr. Robert Glover. Look for, walk through. Let me bring this up. Walk through open doors, right? So this comes to us from Dr. Glover. Walking through open doors. If you look on, I was actually watching a couple of science fiction movies this morning on YouTube. Very low budget, right? You get in, you get your experience wherever you can get it. And that sounds easy, but what stops us from doing that? Well, a couple things. We're not walking through open doors, and we don't want to um, um, we don't want to look uh, like we don't know what we're doing. But if we were, 4 years old and we still didn't care what other people thought, this wouldn't be a problem. We'd be able to create everything. What most therapy and performance coaching actually is, and I'm gonna talk. I think I'm gonna make a separate note about this when we finish this acting part. All right. It's really becoming a 7-year-old again. That's really what all of this work is all about. Because if you were 7 and you didn't care about rules yet, and nobody told you about rules yet, you could create everything. You could take over the world because nobody told you you weren't supposed to do that. Right? We don't want to look like we don't know what we're doing. Yeah. So here are the two concepts I'll focus on today, right? Because everything else with the acting career, it's the same thing with um, other types of filmmaking. I trust that you have been listening enough so that you understand these concepts and you can apply them, right? So it's the same thing. You are um, uh, instead of unlocking acting, you're using acting to unlock comedy, to unlock something else, right? So you're basically pulling this over there. Okay. Walking through open doors basically is seeing opportunities, feeling worthy of them, feeling worthy of them. Oftentimes, when we haven't really worked on ourselves, we can, it's almost like being blind to something. Like if I have this notebook here, this green notebook, you know what a really good example is? Here's a really good example. There's this Disney green um, that is used to cover um, uh, gas and water pumps and elements that are from the facilities at Disneyland that are not part of the actual ride. You aren't supposed to look at them. And there's this particular green that you see at Disneyland that everybody else uses if you drive around and sometimes see on the side of a street a little green, a light green box, right? That green is especially made so you don't notice it. But what's fun, because it has some sort of like either electricity or water systems, all the systems and utility related systems that are needed for a city to run. So there's this Disney green. But what's funny is that since I told you about it, you're going to notice it everywhere. Whereas before, you didn't notice it, right? You saw it, but you didn't notice it. Okay. So that's what this is. Walking through open doors is being able to see something and notice it and see that's something that maybe I can use. That may be something for me, right? Seeing things as for you, as being for you. And the better you get at this, you will realize that half the things you encounter in your day are actually for you. That the simulation, this designed world we live in, over and over and over again, is just giving you things. It's like sending help. But a lot of us, we will either deny the help because we don't feel worthy, or we don't want to believe, or our worldview. So our worldview, our mm, um, model of the world is broken. So if our model of the world is, oh, the world, everything is a trick, right? Uh, Missing opportunities because they look like tricks. And everything will look like a trick if um, if you don't work on your worldview and challenge it and say and the best way to do this is to spend like um, time increments. So for example, okay, so how to fix, spend 5 minutes acting like the world and life is in your favor, like that. Just as a 5 minute exercise. You don't even have to look at anything. You can literally close your eyes like that for 5 minutes and set a timer on your phone and sit for 5 minutes and imagine what the next 5 minutes would look like if the world is truly for you. And then once you get good at that, start doing it for 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes. And eventually you'll get to a point where there will be hours of your day where you feel, yeah, the world is for me. And all of these people who are in my life are for me. I can work with them. I can make partnerships with them. I can learn from them. I can teach them. I can listen to them. They can listen to me. Okay? So that's one way to fix it is being able to recognize open doors. So this is about recognizing open doors. Then we have to practice walking through them. So walking through open doors is different. where it's like we have to be able to talk to people. We overhear things, and we don't want to seem like we're eavesdropping. Again, if your model is everything in the world is for you, you hear something, you can turn around and say, "Hey, I'm interested in that. Can you tell me more about that?" Right? Um, that's how I got into graphic design. I was literally tagging along with a friend who was going to our college's marketing department to make a flyer for an event. And the guy doing the flyer was using Adobe Photoshop, and something like hit me, and I said, "Wait a minute, what is that? What is that? What is that? What is that thing?" And he said, "Oh, this is Photoshop." So that same day, I literally decided I'm going to be a graphic designer. I went and looked up all this stuff. I made all these lists. I wrote things down. I took notes. I was always taking notes, right? And I went and looked all this stuff up in the college computer lab, and and then I instantly looked back when I got back home, and I looked at all of my CDs, and I realized this is all graphic design. It's been right in front of me the entire time, and I never noticed it, right? And that's how a lot of life is. And what I want to do in this show is I want you to call into the show, and I want you to experience that, experience a feeling that life is for you, because you start to make different choices, you start to think differently, and the world starts to look different. All right. And this is we can just stay in the world of psychology, right? We don't have to believe that there's some there's something in the ether going on. If you don't want to believe that, that's fine. If you want to believe just, well, we're all just minds and brains and brain chemistry, then yeah, what you're doing is you're reinforcing, you're strengthening um, synapses that connect to the positive side of life. It's a muscle that you have to like exercise. And that's why the beginning exercise is spending 5 minutes acting like the world and life is in your favor, right? So that's how we can work on that. And then we also want to um, uh, butt in. We want to be nosy, ask more questions about people in our world, and be more curious. Be curious, and want to listen. That third level listening, really listening to what people are really conveying to you, right? All right. The other thing is we don't want to look like we don't know what we're doing. So, what are the reasons why we may overlook a lot of these possibilities and not even take action on them, right? In our quest to become an actor, this is the actor example. Just to clarify, we don't want to look like we don't know what we're doing, right? Lori Rosenwald, she's a designer, has this great course called um, Mistakes on Purpose. And you can see the results of her class. She has people come in, and they just draw. They just draw chalk or Sharpie on paper, and they just design things. They just make things up. And it's a very freeing, liberating experience to freely create. So that course is called Mistakes on Purpose, and it actually exists on Flickr. If you look up Mistakes on Purpose, Lori Rosenwald on Flickr, you can actually find it. Okay, so that's an awesome example of showing that it's okay. So what she's trying to help you with is it's okay to not know what you're doing, because in anything you want to do, you always start out not knowing. So not knowing can't be a blocker for you, because that's always going to be there. It's like saying, um, I don't want to drive a car unless it's already driving, unless it's already running. Yeah, I'm going to jump in the car and drive it, right? You have to get in the car, you have to put on your seatbelt, You have to put in the car, put in the keys, turn it on, put it in drive, and drive. Right? There's no such thing as driving a car that's already moving. So there's always going to be some point where you don't know what you're doing, and you have to make it okay. No one's going to die, right? We aren't building a rocket. We aren't working with fire, right? We aren't building a bridge. No one's going to die. All right. All right. Looks like a couple people joined the live stream, so that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. All right. I'm gonna check for comments. All right. So we know that nobody's going to die. So if we can work on these two things, walking through open doors, that's another concept, and two, uh, um, getting over our fear of looking like we're not knowing what we're doing. You can create everything in your life with these concepts. You can create everything in your life. All right. So what we'll do is we will keep the 7-year-old conversation for tomorrow night. Okay? All right. My name is Zaid, and this is my commitment to 5 days of live streaming at 10 p.m. PST, and I'm on day 10. I'm on day 10. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make throw myself a little party, and this is another concept. We have to recognize when we have accomplished something. I've come on for 10 days in a row, right? Other than Saturday night, and my normal schedule is going to be, Sunday through Thursday at 10 p.m. Right. So I'm going to go ahead and end the live stream here, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. And let me take down this going live soon. All right. And so that's another example of not really knowing what I'm doing, right? Maybe some of you would be embarrassed by that, right? But it's a superpower to just sit and burn in that embarrassment or that feeling. Just don't avoid it, don't run from it. Just stay. Just stay. Containment. You sit here and breathe it in. Breathe out the same way when we do exercising and we have soreness in we have burning in our muscles. We can keep going because we know that there's a payoff at the end. The payoff for having this stuff up here when I should have taken it down is that my tolerance after this show, my tolerance for not knowing what I'm doing in front of people, in front of the world, is going to go up. What can I create with that increased level of tolerance? You see how that works? All right. And I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Take care.